Support for Here and Now Anytime comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, to design and develop engineered systems, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
We don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety.
Companies selling mass surveillance to cops say they're making the world safer, and that the citizens vandalizing those cameras are terrorists. It's Friday, August 28th, and this is Here and Now Anytime from NPR and WBUR. I'm Chris Bentley. Today on the show, we're looking at some of the ways first responders are using artificial intelligence. From cops using AI-enabled cameras and online AI personas,
having these fake personas entrapping people. Is this the type of society we want to live in?
To emergency dispatchers turning to AI for help with non-urgent calls, lightening the workload for their human operators.
Our first shift was going for 12 solid hours, and they were having to put 911 calls on hold to answer non-emergency calls.
But first, let's talk Flock. Thousands of law enforcement agencies have struck deals with companies peddling AI-assisted cameras that read license plates. Flock is the biggest, but not the only one. And the proliferation of their cameras has sparked a widespread backlash over mass surveillance and enabled some abuse of that data by cops, which the Washington Post's Drew Harwell told us about recently.
We found officers using the mapping feature of Flock to basically look up the location and travels of mostly women in their life, wives, exes, women they wanted to meet.
Now, since people have been reporting on Flock, the company has announced some new accountability standards. Law enforcement will now have to use an audit tool that flags abnormal search behavior. And the company says it's shortened how long it holds data by default from 30 days to 7. Kevin Collier of NBC News has been on this, and he told Rob Schmitz more about the company at the center of the story.
Flock is a police surveillance company, relatively new on the scene. It was founded in 2017 by a guy named Garrett Langley. He saw a police tech industry that was a little slow, a little stodgy, and he saw that there was some room for kind of a more Silicon Valley approach to that industry. It means you could pitch cities and police stations and sheriff's office on kind of a more data-centric, high-tech, all-encompassing subscription model. And this subscription model part is pretty important here because Flock takes care of everything for the departments. They don't have to maintain their own cameras, which is huge for, an office that doesn't want to send people out to tinker with the cameras, install the cameras. Right. And it also means that kind of the default mode when Flock came onto the scene was every police department is sharing all their information of every American's movement along these roads and intersections with each other. And so this kind of created a de facto national database where police could log in and see movement of other Americans across the country without a warrant.
So tell me about where Flock's cameras are being used. Like, how widespread is their technology in the United States?
Very widespread. We've got hundreds of thousands of cameras installed, I believe in 49 states that we know of. They're kind of everywhere.
As I said, there's obviously been a lot of criticism, a lot of backlash from politicians across the political spectrum, from local community groups, even former employees. Here's one former Flock staffer, Jonathan Paz, speaking at a town hall meeting in Waltham, Massachusetts in March.
Flock basically sold me this dream that we were helping find missing people. And it didn't take me very long to understand this very hard truth. Companies like these, their only role is to help the government spy on you. Their only role as surveillance companies is to bypass public scrutiny and just surveil.
Should be noted here that Paz is now running for Congress in Massachusetts as a Democrat. Kevin, how big has the backlash against Flock been?
I have covered surveillance technology for more than a decade, and I've never seen anything like this. And I think one aspect of this that's really remarkable is how genuinely bipartisan it is. You can see people who are libertarian bending who say, no, I don't want the government tracking me. And you can see people who are further on the left who say, well, this information can be used for immigration enforcement, for example.
Oh, that's interesting. So has the surveillance that Flock has gathered, has that actually been passed from local law enforcement departments to ICE?
Yeah, there have been a few instances where there will be a local police department that has access to Flock. ICE does not have access to Flock, but the local police department will run searches for people of interest and then pass that information to ICE, who then proceeded with their enforcement.
Kevin, what is at the heart of the concerns that people have about Flock and its technology?
I think there's two really key elements here. One is the repeated accusations of officers who has used it to inappropriately search for a romantic interest, whether that's the person they had a relationship with or broken up with or had an interest with. Pretty fundamentally creepy stuff. Several of these officers have been charged. I know of several that have been fired from their jobs for this. I think the other really main thing is this is kind of a backlash to a long simmering resentment toward surveillance technology creep, where, our phones can pretty easily identify our locations and a whole lot more about us if a police officer or law enforcement official has a warrant for our location data through our phone carrier or through Google or Apple or et cetera.
Not all police departments are using this technology. Many are, but some have thought better of it. The Los Angeles Police Department stopped using Flock's license plate reading technology after at least 160 people were reportedly mistakenly pulled over by police, and one was reportedly in jail for several days after this happened. I can only imagine the implications of this going forward, right?
Yeah, and that echoes other police surveillance technology that can go wrong. Facial technology, for instance, kind of infamously has repeatedly misidentified suspects to police who have multiple times over the past 5 or so years arrested the wrong person. You'll find scattered cases where somebody spent multiple days in jail on a false identification that way. There have been multiple lawsuits in cities across the country where people have said, in almost all the cases where I've interviewed the people behind them, they're almost always normal Americans who are saying things like, I just want to go to the grocery store, go to my job, see my family, live my day-to-day life without there being a record that law enforcement across the country can access of every time I've left my house.
So there has been defense of this technology from public administrators. Here's Carmela Montello, the mayor of Troy, New York, where they have these cameras.
Your iPhone is more of a surveillance camera than the license plate readers.
Kevin, what do you make of that?
It's partially true. Your phone absolutely contains your location data at a more granular level than Flock cameras capture, and it also contains substantially more information. The key difference, though, is that law enforcement needs a warrant to access any of your phone data. And Flock here is kind of the point is that officers can log in and very quickly scan state, local, and even national databases for someone's location. No warrant required.
Part of the backlash has seen people vandalizing these cameras.
After multiple instances of vandalism and public pushback over surveillance technology, the Burnett County Sheriff's Office has removed all of its Flock cameras.
An officer responded to a criminal mischief call. When they showed up, they saw a Flock camera that was cut down right on the sidewalk.
This Flock camera used to be mounted here, but now it's face down in the brush and appears someone sawed it off its pole.
Another Flock camera has been cut down in Cape Coral.
So those are just a handful of the huge number of news reports in recent weeks from across the country. The website called DFlock has mapped out all the cameras. Flock CEO Garrett Langley said this about these dissenters earlier this year.
And then, unfortunately, there's terroristic organizations like DFlock, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that, I think, is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order. I like a society that has a bedrock of safety.
He has since apologized, but this is sort of becoming a PR challenge for Flock and for the police departments. I mean, could we see these technologies removed en masse at some point?
The vandalism phenomenon is very real. It has started in, I want to say, 2024, but it feels very organic. Several people have been charged for it, but it's a pretty substantial national phenomenon, I guess, is a way to put it.
Is it even possible to get rid of this technology? I mean, vandals can damage it or disrupt it in some way. I'm just wondering, is it possible to get rid of the technology once it's implemented in a security system or in police departments?
Individuals certainly can damage and remove individual Flock cameras, but by and large, what does seem to be the more thorough way to remove these cameras has been local city council movements where you will see activists complaining to their city council that Often they did not agree to sign up for a Flock contract. They would have never knowingly agreed to have that technology in their area, and people have just gotten their town to end the contract and remove the cameras.
Flock is not the only company that collects this type of data. Tell me about some of the other companies.
Right, so its biggest competitor is Axon. Axon does not do the kind of national database subscription system that Flock does, but Axon does notably have a contract with ICE. And so there is something, a phenomenon where a couple of towns that have gotten rid of their Flock cameras replace them with Axon ones.
That is NBC News technology reporter Kevin Collier on Flock and the other AI-assisted surveillance technologies and the public outcry against them. Kevin, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
We've got to take a short break now, but we've got more coming up in just a minute.
This message comes from Progressive Insurance. Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. This message comes from NPR sponsor Carvana. Carvana believes selling your car should be easy. Get a real offer down to the penny, picked up from your driveway. You may keep waiting for a catch. There isn't one. Sell today at Carvana.com. Pickup fees may apply.
911 dispatchers are getting more calls and fielding them with fewer staff. According to a 2023 report from the National Association of State 911 Administrators, 1 in every 4 jobs at an emergency call center is vacant. As for the workload, the National Emergency Number Association reports nearly 250 million calls are made to 911 in the U.S. each year. That's an average of a call every 8 seconds or so. It can take a heavy toll on the emergency responders. People like Roxy Van Gundy, director of the Emergency Communications Center in Lyon County, Kansas, that's between Topeka and Wichita. Our producer, Thomas Danielian, asked her about the department's new AI call bot and how it's helping.
Lay out for us why you guys decided to introduce this technology, which you call Betty.
Yes, Betty. Well, we decided that, we needed to look at other ways to process our workflow every day. Across the country, 911's facing severe staffing challenges. It takes a certain kind of person to be a 911 professional. It requires a lot of different skills that not everyone has. And when you don't live in a population dense area, it's even harder to find those people. And so we were struggling with a lot of staffing challenges, and we really wanted to find a way to work smarter and not harder. And we had started to see some information coming out about AI diversion software, and we looked into it and demoed several different providers, and kind of the rest was history.
How stretched were your operators before this technology came into effect?
I like to tell people before on day shift, we were asking 2 people to do the work of 4 or 5 different people, depending on the day. Our first shift was going for 12 solid hours. I mean, just one call after another call after another call. And they were having to put 911 calls on hold to answer non-emergency calls. We also struggled to have people get trained on first shift because people simply did not have time to do that. And now with the implementation of the software, people have time to train. And that's really, really important. So Betty has helped us do that.
Tell me about Betty. How does it work?
So Betty is taking all of our non-emergency calls. And so we take about 80,000 calls a year. Betty takes almost 70,000 calls. And she's programmed currently to take about 25 different call types. And then she does a couple of transfers. And if Betty takes a call that she's programmed to take, she'll go through a series of questions, just like if we were training a normal 911 professional to take a call. And then she goes through each of those questions, processes a transcript, and sends it to our telecommunicators. Once they get it in their email, They look it over, see if it's something they need to send out right away, or if it's something they can wait until they have a unit available to do. Two things that I love about it is there's a transcript of every call. There's a audio version of every call. If somebody is watching Betty take a call, they can pull it if they believe it's something they need to process and not Betty. So there's always a human in the loop here. Betty's never left to her own devices.
Can you give me an example of a call that Betty is designed to take and handle?
Really, some easy ones like parking problems where the questions are the same. Where's the car? What does it look like? Do you have a plate? That kind of thing. We take a lot of animal calls. We don't have an animal shelter that really fits the capacity that we need. So we have a lot of roaming animals that get called in. We had a big problem with people calling in and wanting us to transfer them to the jail. So Betty just transfers people to the jail who want that. So when she picks up on keywords, she'll ask them if that's what they're calling about, and then she goes from there.
Some people are going to hear this conversation and they're going to be like, oh, it sounds like when I call 911 for an emergency, I'm just going to be met with a robot, which obviously is a pretty scary sounding thing to a lot of people. What would you say to people who have that concern in your community or other communities where this technology is available?
What I would say to people is that AI technology is never going to replace an emergency telecommunicator. You need to call 911 and talk to a human that knows where you're calling, knows the local landmarks, understands the culture of the community. And I don't think anyone in 911 wants to get rid of that. The unfortunate part of our profession is that we don't have enough people, and we have to prioritize those emergency calls and utilize different softwares like AI diversion. But 911 is always going to be human involved every single time. So I just want people to understand that that's not really where we're going with this at all.
Well, let's hear from this AI assistant herself, shall we? Thomas called up the demo line for Betty to see how she handled a fake request.
You've reached Lyon County Communications. We are currently busy answering 911 emergency calls. What are you calling about today?
I'm calling about a parking issue at 518 Mechanic Street in Emporia.
It sounds like you're calling about abandoned vehicle or parking issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Please confirm whether the incident occurred in Lyon County, the city of Emporia, or on the ESU campus.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is the parking issue in Lyon County, the city of Emporia, or on the ESU campus?
Lyon.
What is the address or location of the issue?
518 Mechanic Street.
Are you currently at 518 Mechanic Street?
No, I'm not right now.
What is your current location?
I'm just in a coffee shop down the road, but I don't know its address.
Could I have your first name, please?
Thomas goes on to share his information, and then they get to why he's calling.
Can you tell me what the parking problem is?
I got a ticket, but I don't think I should have one, so I'd love to query why it's there.
Because you are asking about a parking ticket rather than reporting a parking issue. I am connecting you to call taker. Please hold while I transfer your call.
Well, Thomas, I and a lot of people have probably had similar experiences with similar call bots. Like, I know that Amtrak, that came to mind for some reason, has had one for a long time. How did you think this one did?
I have to say, I think Betty did quite well. I was impressed. It was a simple question I had, though. It was a simple issue I had for Betty to address. Now, Roxy did say that, there are a set number of pretty simple things they can deal with. And so that's my experience there. I will say, though, I still feel like Roxy didn't address my concerns beforehand, about the kind of issues of, hallucination, this AI thinking it can handle stuff that it's really not equipped to handle. So I was overall impressed. I will say, though, the keyboard clicking, the over-the-top keyboard clicking of Betty throughout the process was a little too much, trying a little too hard.
You don't like when they try to make it sound like it's a person over there. You'd rather it just be a robot.
Well, no, and I'll be honest, Chris, I trimmed down the bits where she was typing because it just became ridiculous. No human is typing for that long, so...
Yeah, sometimes they make a sound like or something like that to indicate that they're thinking, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm like, as long as they transfer you once they notice that they can't help you with a problem, and as long as they're not handling emergency situations, do you feel like as long as you can still get to a human, that's okay at the end of the day?
Yeah, I will say, we spoke to someone from Motorola Solutions, who are the designers behind this technology, and they said that Betty and other similar AI agents they've designed are trained to pick up on background noises if they hear something concerning and transfer immediately. They're also trained to pick up on, specific words, danger, shooting, etc., from a caller, and know to transfer immediately to a real person. So that at least gave me some comfort.
Producer Thomas Danielian. As he mentioned, we also spoke with the former Colorado police chief now in charge of this tech at Motorola Solutions. You can listen to that conversation right now at hereandnow.org. But coming up next, another creative use of AI in the workforce, though this one's a little more controversial than robot call assistants. In just a moment, Rob Schmitz learns how cops are using AI-generated personas to investigate crimes online. Stick around.
This message comes from Schwab. With the new Schwab Teen Investor Account, teens can gain hands-on investing experience and build positive money habits. It's an account co-owned by you and your teen, so you can monitor and engage with the account while your teen learns how to invest and manage money. Learn more at schwab.com. This message comes from NPR sponsor Carvana. Carvana makes car buying easy. 100% online, prices down to the penny, delivered to your door. Why make car buying hard when it could be easy? Visit Carvana.com today. Terms may apply.
Wired Magazine and 404 Media teamed up to report on a company offering AI-powered avatars that chat online with people whom police suspect of anything from human trafficking to tracking college protesters. 404's co-founder Jason Koebler reported this story and joins me now for more. Hey, Jason.
Thanks so much for having me.
What do you know about the company behind this, which is called Massive Blue, and the product that they're offering to law enforcement departments?
So Massive Blue is a New York-based company. It makes a product called Overwatch. And Massive Blue is co-founded by this guy named Chris Clem, who's a former U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent. Worked at the border for a few decades, and there's photos of him with some prominent folks in the Trump administration.
Tell me a little bit about the product that they offer, Overwatch, and how they are pitching this to law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, so Overwatch is a product that is used to set up social media AI personas to infiltrate different networks. You'll make an account, and what is being done here is the police are controlling these accounts, but they come with AI-generated photos, they come with names, and then they come with kind of this backstory. An example is a protest persona from this presentation that we received that Massive Blue gave to police. It's a woman named Heidi. She's 36 years old. She's from Richland Hills, Texas. She's divorced. Her hobbies are activism, baking, and her personality is outspoken and seeking meaning. And so
Okay.
this person doesn't exist, obviously, but
Right.
you kind of give AI the instructions to operate within a chat group where people are organizing protests, and it can take on this persona. And what it's actually doing is collecting information that is then funneled to police.
And how do these personas interact online?
There was an example that I saw that Massive Blue gave. They call it a child trafficking persona. It's like a 14-year-old kid from LA, and he is texting with a suspected child trafficker. There are screenshots of these conversations where they're talking about video games, but then the child trafficker in this example is saying, tell me more about yourself. Some of the chats are like, this persona is asked what they're doing, and they said, like, just chilling by myself, man. My mom's at work and my dad's out of town. And then he uses a bunch of emojis. And so, yeah, it is designed to kind of use these like stereotypical like Gen Alpha slang and emojis and that sort of thing.
So how many law enforcement departments around the country actually have a contract to use this technology?
It's pretty small. Pinal County, which is a big county in Arizona around Tucson, had a contract with Massive Blue to pilot this technology. At the time we wrote this article, which was a few months ago, it had not been used to make any arrests, but we know that the technology was pitched to other police departments in Arizona. It was also pitched to the Texas Rangers. One of the hard things to say is you often don't know about tech that's being pitched to local governments unless you are a member of that community.
They're trying to keep it secret.
They are trying to keep it very secret. And honestly, tracking down this presentation that we're talking about required me to file public records requests with dozens of agencies in Arizona and Texas, which is where we knew they were operating, just because Chris Clem has, contacts there. And that's sort of where he was working when he was with Customs and Border Patrol. But a lot of these documents were withheld from us because they were exempt from public records requests. Police, say that they need this technology to remain a secret because it's being used to solve crimes and go after human traffickers and that sort of thing.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the technology a little more. I can see the appeal of an AI persona to track down like traffickers, terrorist threats. But you mentioned a protester profile, and that seems to be in a gray area and at risk of maybe violating a protester's First Amendment rights. Is that the risk here?
That's one of the big risks here is, yes, this technology might be quite useful for infiltrating a sex trafficking ring or drug trafficking ring as well. But the examples of the persona types that they provide here is college protester, escorts, recruiter for protests. And so some of these are either First Amendment protected activities or activities that are maybe lesser types of crimes. If you start essentially having these fake personas entrapping people, it's hard to say, like, is this the type of society we want to live in where already when you go online, when you go on social media, there is so much AI generated content. It's hard to tell who is a real person and who is a bot. And if some of those bots are operated by police or private companies that are working with police, I think there is a very real fear of this being deployed in a way that violates people's rights.
That is 404 Media co-founder Jason Koebler. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's always more to read and listen to at hereandnow.org. Rob also spoke with someone about some ill-fated attempts to use AI-assisted robots in the real world, not just online, to police public spaces.
They really struggle to navigate environments in flux. The AI just can't handle those ambiguous situations that security guards and police face daily. Security guards and police are trained to de-escalate, talk to people and warm them up and interact with them, and that these robots can't do that yet.
Listen to that conversation and a lot more right now at hereandnow.org. But that's it for the show today. Here and Now Anytime comes from NPR and WBUR Boston. All of today's stories were produced by Thomas Danielian. Our editors are Todd Munt, Chico Theory, Micaela Rodriguez, and Michael Scotto. Technical direction from Caleb Green, Matt Reed, and Nick Dussault. Our theme music is by Mike Muscetto, Max Liebman, and me, Chris Bentley. Our digital producers are Allison Hagen and Grace Griffin, and Here and Now's executive producer is Alan Price. Thanks for listening. Click that follow button so you keep up with this show, which has new episodes every single weekday of the year. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with you on Monday.
This message comes from Schwab. With the new Schwab Teen Investor Account, teens can gain hands-on investing experience and build positive money habits. It's an account co-owned by you and your teen, so you can monitor and engage with the account while your teen learns how to invest and manage money. Learn more at schwab.com.